Welcome, everybody, to the RDL show. This is the Ryan D. Leaf Show. You're watching us here on YouTube or on Periscope via Twitter. Welcome. Subscribe to the Ryan D. Leaf Show on YouTube. Listen via podcast on the Believe Podcast Networks. You can check us out on Twitter, on Instagram. Follow us at hashtag RDL Show on Twitter and Instagram at the RDL Show. Welcome back. Sky will be joining us as well as Jonathan here shortly. Wanted to kind of get into some of the things we talked about Monday to open the show around the mental health space and what you can do to kind of move forward. I've recently started, training again. I got myself a trainer about a month ago or so, and we've eased into it, early in the morning, 6 a.m. So I like getting up. I'm up at like 5:30 every morning. I love to get it done before the day has begun. I feel like when I've accomplished so much by 7 a.m., 8 o'clock, and ahead of what other people may have accomplished during the day, I feel like I achieved a little bit more. It's motivating for me. This is something that I think, not just as a former athlete, but anybody really, just to be active. Of course, we promote the nutrition side of things here on the show with Sunfair. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but how I've changed my nutrition over the last year during this pandemic, when COVID-19 parked a lot of us at home with quarantine. Here in California for myself, has been really locked down for about 14 months or more. It looks like it's going to open up a little bit more here June 15th, but a lot of people who tend to like the fellowship around recovery, around mental health and stuff like that, we're told to isolate. We're told to, showing me in my little workout this morning. Yeah, I got a great trainer, and it's really helped my mental acuity in that I am more active. I have more energy. They're taxing, but they're not like what I used to do when I worked out. So this is just kind of an example for everybody to try to emulate a little bit, just to get out. For a while, it was just walking, right? Being outside, kind of being away from everything. And anytime there's any kind of feeling of anxiety at all, I would get out and simply walk. Put the headset in, listen to some music, walk, think about my day. And the workout has kind of done that for me as well. This time, I'm not thinking about anything else. My trainer, Shannon, who is exceptional. You guys can follow her at Shannon Shape on Instagram. She's amazing. Very technical and fundamental, and it's a lot of mobility stuff. For somebody who's 45 years old, who's had a ton of injuries, who's been through a lot of things physically with my body, she does a lot of stuff with mobility and core. And since I play a lot of golf, that's been incredibly helpful. A lot of times she has me do some of these mobility movements and I feel awkward in doing them, but I know that it's going to benefit me physically in the long run, but it also does a heck of a lot for my mental health. And anybody else out there that is struggling with the fact that they've been pent up at home, they're getting out there more and can be more active. This is something that has fueled me in the last year, and in particular the last month. I feel good about myself. And when you feel good about yourself, you tend to feel good about how things are going, regardless of any situations in your life. I say this all the time in my speeches here on the show, and you guys hear it. Life isn't fair. It's how you deal with it that matters, and whether you make the positive and healthy choice when deciding what to do. And so this is one of those steps for me. Again, you guys can follow us at hashtag RDL Show on Twitter and Instagram, at the RDL Show, and subscribe to the Ryan D. Leaf Show on YouTube. Listen via our podcasts if you want to listen on that side of things on the Believe Podcast Network. We're going to welcome back in Jonathan Rifkin, who's been away working hard at his play-by-play gig down there in San Diego. Sky Glasgow, always here next to me. The pandemic and the isolation of it all for both you guys, understanding what you are in control of, how big of a factor has been, exercise, things like that, to kind of the endorphins that come with that. How big of a factor has that been and you guys dealing with what the last, almost year and a half has meant to your lives.
Yeah. First of all, happy to be back. The what's really good for my mental health is to be on the RDL show. So this is step one. This is step one. Watching, being on it, all part of the conversation, all part of the script. But from I have ADHD, so I'm hyperactive. My mind goes all over the place, hyperstimulated. I'm just now learning how to even just focus on my breath in times where I learned it from Phil Mickelson's approach on the green, by the way, because he is so cerebral, he is so calm, and it's like my body, my mind knows I need to be calm. My body doesn't. What can I do? And I just now am learning to count my breaths. I still can't meditate very well. I need some sort of stimulation, TV, something to fall asleep most of the time. And exercise is vital. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I was working out all of the time. About August, I was working out once or twice a day. About August, I injured myself, and that was taken away from me. And those 2 months, that's where you learn how important being active in any way is, Ryan. Like you said, like just getting up and walking. I wasn't even doing that because this anxiety, like I had an AC separation. I had and I had a tear in my whatever this muscle is right here. And you can lift. I could still go do things, but I didn't because I was sitting there with this anxiety. I can't work out. I can't do the things that I want to do. And eventually, day by day, you don't even realize it. You get stuck into that trap. What it is, you wake up and you go through the same thing, and it's hard to break out until you really recognize it. And just getting out, starting to play basketball again, getting back into my routine, going to the gym now that things are open. I'm slowly but surely starting to come back together. And it also, look, who are we? We are at our true selves when we have nothing around us but us and our thoughts, right? We live in our heads. So we need to try and make the space in our heads a great place to live if we're going to live in our heads. And so, compartmentalizing and figuring all that out, including exercise, including having these mental health conversations and just being open and truthful with people, all of that is important. And the pandemic has helped me figure out what I need, what my brain and my body needs to work in unison on that side of things. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And in our household, my partner is a health and wellness instructor and coach. Daughter's on the high school dance team. I started playing softball again, finally, that was taken out last year, started running again. And I'll be honest, the first 6-7 months, likewise, of the pandemic, I was working heavily. I was just not interested in being outside. First of all, we weren't supposed to be. Eugene, Oregon, and Oregon in general has been very locked down for a long time. One of the most strict states we've had around. So it was tough, but the sun's coming back out. And as Jonathan knows, it's pretty special up here when it's not freezing cold.
No vitamin D deficiencies when the sun's out up there.
Exactly. So it's been really nice. And just to get outside, even to walk the dog, simple things to walk the dog, get out and water the plants for an extra 20 minutes or something a day and get some sun has been huge too. Taking a break from screens is a big thing for me. And also just making sure that, like Jonathan said, controlling your breath and making sure that you're in a proper place to be as effective as you possibly can. And highly encouraging getting physically active however you possibly can.
Having a kid is huge, Sky. You know that. Yesterday, MacGyver got his first swimming lesson. We should have gotten him into it a little earlier last summer. So I got plenty of sun yesterday. I feel very.
How are your swimming skills, Ryan? Is he coming from good genetics?
It's coming from great genetics. I love being in the water. We should have got him going. He loves the water. I mean, that's the thing. We just didn't give him lessons, and I can teach him as well as I can, of course. But I just, I'm not, as he would say. He says this a lot. Anytime he does something well, I tell him, "Good job." And he's like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm an expert." That's what he tells me. So.
I got this, Pops thing.
I love the confidence. Oh, man.
Yes, he does. Speaking of confidence, the Brooklyn Nets look like they have all the confidence in the world. They are rolling.
97 Cougs out there.
What's that?
Looking like the 97 Cougs out there, just butter on every play.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They're without James Harden with the injury, and some people talked about whether or not that was going to be a factor. What that has opened up is that it has opened up opportunity for probably the best player in the game right now, Kevin Durant, to get more looks, get the ball more. And Milwaukee looked about as good as anybody in the first round, and they look like they're about to get swept in the second round here. And I don't know if anybody from the East it could be some entertaining Eastern Conference final, but I don't know if really a team in the East is going to stand up against the likes of the Brooklyn Nets. The Atlanta Hawks got beat by the 76ers. I think that's a series that could probably go 7 games, should be very entertaining, but I don't know if there's a team out in the Eastern Conference that's going to truly battle the Brooklyn Nets moving forward. And then when we head out west, we're going to get the Western Conference semifinals tonight again. The Phoenix Suns going to battle the Utah, or the Clippers are going to battle the Utah Jazz, and the Phoenix Suns are going to take on the Denver Nuggets once again. The Clippers, for the majority of the game, seemed like they had that thing in control. And about midway through the third quarter, Utah just started rolling. And, Paul George just continues to baffle me in terms of where he's at in the playoffs. He just seems like he disappears at times. And he was the big reason
Can we compartmentalize this? Because you just went from through all the different games. Can we compartmentalize and go like game by game? Because I feel like I have so much to respond to, but we're skipping through all of it.
Well, what would you like to respond to first?
Let's finish that thought. Finish the thought about Paul George, because I think that's a good place to start with all of this.
Yeah, I just, he's going to have to contribute more, because it can't be all Kawhi Leonard, right? I mean, it just can't. Utah looked like the complete team last night, and you forget though too that they just the Clippers just went through a 7-game series against Luka and that team, and barely got out with their hides after round 1. Is this shaping up to be a very similar series where they just inexplicably lose games they probably shouldn't, and extend a series to 6-7 games again?
No, I think it was a quality loss as far as you can get for the Clippers, right? Utah's the number 1 seed. You just came off of a series that you pushed 7 games, that you came back down 0-2, that down 3-2, that Kawhi Leonard basically needed a triple-double to get over the hump, right? I know they won by whatever, it was 15 or 13 in Game 7 against Dallas, but that's an exhausting series. To have to go to Salt Lake, to have to deal with that crowd. Dwayne Wade is sitting there on the sidelines, cheering against you, and all of a sudden, look, Paul George, he got to the free throw line. He was still 3 for 8 from 3. It's not like he was shooting an inefficient rate, but you're right. Three of his 4 field goals are from beyond the arc, and he's 4 for 17. Not going to get it done. Not when Donovan Mitchell scored. Donovan Mitchell was sick last night and had his best game of his career, right? So I think the problem here is, our expectations might just be a little bit too high for what to get out of Paul George and Kawhi right now. I think that, give them a little bit of juice, get them back to LA, and we'll see a different team. It's what we saw against Dallas. It's the same start that we saw. Look, they proved that they could beat this Utah Jazz team through the first 3.5 quarters. I think it was like 84-83, or it was 83-83, and that's when Utah made the run midway through the third. So, and by the way, the last play of the game, when they came down the floor and there was all that craziness and Marcus Morris got blocked in the corner by Gobert, if you looked at the end, Rondo got the rebound before they started coming down the floor, and Paul George was standing at the back sideline 90 feet away from his own hoop asking for the ball from Rondo, and Rondo's like, push, and he gets it to Kawhi, and Paul George just walks back because he didn't get the ball. That is lazy. If he ran back and got into position, Kawhi would have found Paul George, and Paul George would have had that shot, not Marcus Morris in the corner. So Paul George is a great player that they need, but he's lazy at times, and you just have to stop Donovan Mitchell. 45 points from Donovan Mitchell, even if Paul George had 30, they probably aren't going to win that game. So he's baffling, but it comes down to defense and efficiency at the end of the day with this. That's how I feel.
Donovan Mitchell's playing fantastic. Outside of Kevin Durant, he's arguably the hottest player in the playoffs. Currently, he has 3 games of 45 points in the playoffs in his career. That's more than Kareem, Shaq, Charles Barkley, Damian Lillard, James Harden, and Steph Curry. So he is putting up stats early in his career when it matters. And
the Spider.
Frankly, the Jazz are just playing fantastic. I personally don't think unless Kawhi can really put it on his back, I don't think that the Clippers can take him in a series.
Kawhi was minus 12. He had 23 points, he had 7 boards, and he was minus 12. I mean, that just shows that he can't do it all, right? Like, he's out there, he's playing
and he's fantastic, but
right.
It's
why is his team minus 12 when he's on the floor in this game? Because Utah has more continuity on offense with their starters. They all make shots, and they have Gobert in the middle, and it's really, really hard to stop. Zubats can't do it. Marcus Morris can't do it. They didn't even start Zubats, and then he had to play the last 15 minutes of the game. So it's tough. It's tough with this team.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about the Clippers. I have this like arbitrary confidence about them, and then they go out and play, and then I lose all that confidence. Our boy Charlie Moss is chiming in with the playoff PG vomit face. I love our contributors when they can. Question of the day, before we get onto the football side of things here.
I got one here for you.
Is can Ryan Tannehill become an NFL MVP candidate in 2021? We're going to dive into that more when we get into the NFL here, when we talk to Kayla Anderson, Washington State alum and Emmy-winning sports reporter there in Nashville. Good friend of mine, good friend of the show. She'll be joining us at the top of the hour to discuss all things there. Before we get into the Titans and Julio Jones trade, let's talk about OTAs, right? Mini camps that are going on right now, mandatory mini camps. The big absence, of course, Aaron Rodgers, the story that continues to have legs ever since the announcement by Adam Schefter the day of the draft around his lack of interest of being with the Green Bay Packers anymore. Ultimately, about $93,000 he could be fined for missing these 3 mandatory days. It still hasn't been talked about whether or not they actually go forward with that. This is something that's going to continue for the next 90 plus days until the opening kickoff of that Thursday night football game between the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. Your guys' thoughts on the fact that it doesn't seem like we know anything new. It's a discussion point that continues to be the case. The Green Bay Packers hold all the cards here. They don't have to trade him. And it's a matter of who blinks first, really. Are the Green Bay Packers going to blink and say, we got to move on and trade him? Or is Aaron Rodgers going to blink first? And I've had the feeling that no matter what, when this is all said and done, on opening day of the season, you're going to see number 12 in the green and yellow playing for the Green Bay Packers.
Well, I mean, how you say who blinks first, right? If the Packers hold all their cards, that's fine, but they need to treat him a certain way. Let me put it this way. Does Aaron Rodgers deserve to be treated well, fairly, by the Green Bay Packers? Should the Packers forego the fines? Should they not put a curfew? Should they, like, all these different things that Marcellus Wiley and Emmanuel Ocho are currently talking about on their talk show on Fox Sports, right? Should the Packers do all of that, right? Does Aaron Rodgers deserve that? Because at the end of the day, the Packers can treat them however they want to treat them, but if they truly want this guy back, like, they will have to blink first. They simply will, right? David Bakhtiari came out today and said, look, as a friend, I support Aaron Rodgers. Whatever he needs to do for Aaron Rodgers, I'm here to support him as a player. I want the MVP back, and I want my team to make the decision to get him back here however they need to get him back here. So it seems like the players follow a line in that narrative, and if that's the truth, then the Packers are going to be number one, to treat Aaron Rodgers, whether he deserves it or not, they're going to treat him well. And number 2, they're going to blink first if they really want this guy back and they need him in their corner.
I think at some point, though, this is going to turn poorly for Aaron. Now, we don't know enough. We don't know all the the backstage ongoings over the last couple years. We have heard some kind of inkling of stuff and his distaste for Ryan Gutekunst and what went on with the Jordan Love draft pick. But we don't know enough. As of right now, it's looking more and more like, Aaron, who's made over $240 million in his career, has the best chance of winning another championship in Green Bay with a bunch of teammates who are never going to make that kind of money trying to win a championship at well. This is not going to turn well for Aaron. At some point, he's going to start looking like a petulant child, like, he doesn't get along with the general manager because he doesn't think the values match up. So he's going to essentially punish all his teammates who have worked really, really hard with him to get to this place. That's
but
what
players aren't. But Ryan, what's the example? We've seen this, but we're not. This is really the first we're seeing of this in football. But we've seen this before. This is what James Harden did to the Rockets. This is what I can go. I mean, I can go down the list of players. Right. This is the player empowerment era. This is now where we have to identify with the player and what their wants and needs over the team. We are anti-owner. We are anti-general manager. We are pro-player. And what you're saying is that's actually what we're trying to do juxtaposes our perspective because it's actually hurting all the other players surrounding him. Yet nobody's ever been penalized. James Harden wasn't penalized for just bailing on the Rockets and an entire team that came and that was working every single day to try and compete. That was trying to, these were guys who needed to play well for contract. There are wide receivers out there that need a good quarterback in order to get a contract to be able to be a wide receiver, right? Like you need these guys. How much? But do you think that the players are looking at the Packers organization and seeing it as you guys aren't doing enough to get Aaron Rodgers back, and that's hurting us, rather than Aaron Rodgers, you holding out and you sticking by whatever it is, however it is that you feel is hurting us? Because it could go the other way too. They could be looking at the team and saying, "What your decision making is what's hurting us."
Yeah, ultimately, it's not going to work. It's not going to. When the season comes to fruition, it's not going to look good for Aaron Rodgers. It may now, and team players may be backing him. But if it continues without any more information getting out there, like there isn't something substantive out there that's stopping him, because all that he's saying is that his values don't match up with a certain individual in the front office. And that, for me, ultimately is going to turn on Aaron Rodgers.
What's his value? What do you think his value is? Is he worth what he says he's worth? Is he right to do?
Of course he's worth whatever you can pay a quarterback.
So do you blame him for doing what he's doing then?
Yes, they've offered him the contract. They've offered him the extension with the guaranteed money. He says he does not want to play for them. And that for me becomes a problem because of his teammates. I'm in for player empowerment just like you are. As a former player, there doesn't seem to be too much from the front office aspect of things. They could have done things differently when it came to talking to him about the Jordan Love. All you had to do is send a text, right? Communicate. Hey, we're thinking about doing this. Aaron could respond like, hey, I'm going to be your guy for the next 3 years. I don't feel like this is probably the right time. There could have been a conversation that could have had. And if that's enough to disrupt the best chance, I think, in the NFC, other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to win a championship, then there's going to be blame on both sides. But I think ultimately it's going to land in the lap of Aaron Rodgers. Now, if he chooses just to walk away and transition into a post-career life, okay. His legacy is set in his mind. But ultimately, unless more information comes out about why this is not so untenable, because I haven't got a good enough answer of why this is so untenable for him not to be the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers.
I have a question, though, beyond that. I mean, you said in his mind his legacy is cemented. His legacy is cemented at this point, right? He's not going to catch up to Brady. He has 3 MVPs. He has his Super Bowls. I mean, yeah, he could go win another Super Bowl.
The one thing that he could get a leg up on is to win a second championship in Green Bay, and then his legacy would I think go above Brett Favre, who was only able to win the one.
So you don't have him above Brett Favre right now. So that's what he has to prove.
Right. Right now, I feel like this has been 3 decades of Hall of Fame quarterback play in Green Bay. So the fans, I don't want to hear from the fans in an uproar about who to blame in any of this, right? This is a team and player issue. The fans, if they're complaining about stuff, they've had 3 decades of Hall of Fame quarterback play. You just shut up and let it play out the way it needs to play out if you're the Green Bay Packer fans. I just think that ultimately, and I know Aaron well, right? We play golf in the off season. We do things together. I don't know if I know enough. There has to be more out there. There has to be more out there for this to just completely implode. Now, did he watch Tom Brady do what he did last year, to leave a franchise he'd been in his entire career, win championships at, and go to another place and win one? Maybe Aaron feels like he could do that someplace else. I don't know if there's a team out there that is a landing spot for him that actually is a viable option. because there's trade. Don't forget, Tom Brady was a free agent. He could go wherever he wanted to. That's not up to Aaron Rodgers. It's up to the Green Bay Packers and what they can get in reciprocal compensation. That's a big factor in all this as well.
I agree. Kayla's here.
All right, that's good. I will bring her on in 1 second. We're going to talk about the Julio Jones trade and what the Titans are doing. Kayla Anderson is a Washington State alum. She has worked from the Murrow School of Communication in Pullman. She started in my home state of Montana. She's been an exceptional broadcaster and sports analyst. Found her way to Nashville, Tennessee, where she covers all things sports from the Predators to the Tennessee Titans. And we love to welcome her to the RDL show. Kayla, how are you doing today? Oh, I love to go Cougs. There we go.
So I have it actually on my desk, but I had to switch it up. There's no way I wasn't getting that back there. How are you doing, Ryan? Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Thank you so much for taking some time to join us today. This has been, other than the Aaron Rodgers talk, Julio Jones and the massive trade, not only just because of the trade, but because of the players on the Tennessee Titans and them really trying to get Julio there, in particular, A.J. Brown and his social media platform. What do you take away from the trade, and how has it landed there in Nashville?
Yeah, it's been really an exciting past 3 days here in Nashville, Tennessee. And look, this was something I think fans thought was going to happen. I think the media even thought this was going to happen. And just for the sheer fact that when you looked at that wide receivers group with the departure of Corey Davis, with the departure of Adam Humphries, you're looking at it and you see A.J. Brown and you're like, okay, that's good and great, but what else is there? And then you also lost Jonnu Smith in the tight ends room, who had been really successful on the field last season. So everyone kind of was expecting a move to happen. And when we talked to John Robinson that Sunday when the move was made, he pretty much said, yeah, we had been looking at making this deal. And finally, he actually said he got it done at a breakfast spot. He worked out all the deals at a breakfast spot on Saturday for the most part. This was something that he wanted. He thought that this would make this team reach that level where they could get to the Super Bowl. And it's a done deal. And man, the city of Nashville, I can't even explain the excitement right now. I know the jerseys are now on sale, and I'd expect those to go real quick, and they're going to have to restock them all year.
He's going to wear number 2, right? That's what if I'm informed correctly. On my show on Sirius XM NFL Radio, I talked about it a lot. And I've come along in a different way. I didn't know if he's necessarily changed the dynamic in Tennessee in terms of their contending value. I thought they were a contender from the jump, but adding somebody like Julio Jones does a lot, because defensive coordinators already have a problem enough dealing with Derrick Henry in the backfield there. But now, by putting 8 guys in the box and then singling up only on A.J. Brown, Corey Davis and Julio Jones is a much bigger upgrade. If he can stay healthy, defensive coordinators all week are going to have many sleepless nights preparing for this Titans team.
Well, and that's the thing, because A.J. Brown is already a beast. We've seen what he's done in these past 2 years, especially last year, his yards after catch. I mean, he's just a monster. And yeah, I think Corey Davis, he had a great year. I mean, almost reached 1,000 yards as A.J. Brown did. But Julio Jones is also just a specimen in itself. I mean, he's had a huge NFL career. And I know he's 32 years old, and he's definitely on this side of his NFL career, but he hasn't shown that much in terms of decline. And I just think adding him to this Titans offense, it's a really good match for him, because he can go opposite of A.J. Brown. You have Derrick Henry, who you have to stop as well. And then you also have, Anthony Ferguson. I know he's not a big name tight end, but he has been able to do a lot for this Titans offense, especially last year. You've got a lot more weapons in here, but yeah, just having that duo of A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, I mean, just physically when you look at the guys, it's just impressive.
A lot of people don't realize how many, you talked about the absence of the wide receiving core, and then Jonnu Smith at the tight end position. I think 195 receptions left the team this offseason. So it was imperative for them to go out and find some contributors. Now, the question is, in a division where they are going to be competing with the Colts, really, I mean, the Jags and the Houston Texans are in a chaotic place right now. They won't be vying for a division title, but these two teams will. What's the thing that's going to limit them? And it has to be a lot of the absences on defense. How are they going to reshape that and be a factor in this division?
Yeah, that's exactly where I think the question mark is. Now that the offense is shored up, especially with adding a guy like Julio, you look at this defense, and that was the weakness of this team last season. It was just an up and down thing. They had historically the worst third down percentage, I think, in NFL history. It was always this word communication. It was brought up in every single press conference after a loss, and nobody really knew what was going on. And so now that they have finally, named a defensive coordinator, it looks like Mike Vrabel has kind of given him the reins. And now these individual players, guys like Kevin Byard, guys like Jeffrey Simmons, the addition of guys like Bud Dupree, they're going to have to take a lot on in terms of stepping it up. And then you look at the secondary, it has to step it up as well. I mean, Kevin Byard is the OG in this secondary, which used to be, in my opinion, one of the best in the league. And now they all have gone other places. So you've got a lot of new faces. You've got a guy like Janoris Jenkins, who still has a little bit left in him. What is he going to do? So the defense is still kind of the question mark here. And for them to be able to compete for a Super Bowl, just to make it deep in the playoffs, they have to have a better year defensively overall.
Our question of the day was whether or not Ryan Tannehill can actually become an NFL MVP candidate. And what we've seen from him the last 2 years, now under Arthur Smith at the helm, he's gone now. Is this, with the addition of Julio Jones, with more maybe input in the offense with the new offensive coordinator, is this a year that Ryan Tannehill can kind of make that jump and be in that kind of consideration this season?
I absolutely think so. And you look at last season, and I know it ended on a sour note. He did not have a great showing in that playoff game against the Ravens. But when you look at Tannehill as a whole and what he's been able to do offensively here, I think sometimes he gets not as much credit as he should. He hasn't been phenomenal in playoff games, but throughout the season, he's been really solid. And when you add a piece like Julio, it just gives him more freedom, more weapons to go to. And on top of it, when you talk to John Robinson about Ryan Tannehill, and ever since he's become the starter, the main thing that he talks about is the leadership that he has on offense, the way that he gets his wide receivers to listen, switching up something. They pay attention to Ryan Tannehill. They will listen to Ryan Tannehill because Ryan Tannehill wants to make them better. AJ Brown talks so highly of this guy. It's definitely all around. I don't want to call him a game manager. Sometimes I don't like that title, but I think he manages real well. And then he can also do a lot of good things physically. This guy can run. He's not the best guy out of the pocket in terms of passing, but he can get around. He's not afraid to move with the ball. And he's been shown at times to go deep. And when he needs to find a weapon, he's not afraid to do that. He's got confidence. And I think he's really going to be able to step it up this next year.
I really feel like the Titans, there are certain teams, the Indianapolis Colts for one of them. Ryan Ballard has kind of put together some great drafts. And sometimes when you have too good of drafts, you have players that you get later in rounds that now are up on for their extended contracts or for their second contract, and you have to make a decision. So it's kind of to a point where the Colts, either have to get it done now or never. Are the Titans kind of in that place? They've been working towards this thing for the last 3 years when they decided to bring Ryan Tannehill up through the system, and now with Julio Jones, is this kind of in a place where a lot of people's expectations are the Titans need to go deep into the playoffs, if anything, for a Super Bowl chance?
100%. I think that if you didn't think that was the case, then you're not watching the window here in Tennessee, because John Robinson made this move because he knew that it would make his football team better. He knew that it would give them a chance to be contenders. And while they do have to figure things out on defense, I think that those problems will be solved this year with just the additions. And with everything that goes on the shoulders of these individual players. I think they know what's at stake, especially when you add a piece like Julio Jones. But you're right. The window is not, it's not huge right now. It's a smaller window where they know that they have to get it done here in the next couple of years, or it might take another, 5-6 years down the road. So adding a piece like Julio is going to help them do that. But John Robinson, he wouldn't say it outright, but you can tell this is the move he made because he knows the window is small.
Especially with the division kind of almost cut in half this year. Our special guest today is Kayla Anderson. You can see her on Twitter at Kayla Anderson TV, Emmy-winning sports reporter at WKRN in Nashville. I'm going to bring on Jonathan Rifkin, one of my co-hosts. He has a question for you surrounding the Julio trade and what's going on in Tennessee.
Hey, Kayla, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate you having you on the show. Big fan. We love identity, right? Fans love team identity. What's the offensive identity? What's the defensive identity? And nowadays in football, most teams don't build their identity out of the backfield, right? I would say Carolina may have been an exception, but even Christian McCaffrey, he's sort of a hybrid. And we typically see those kinds of running backs in a stacked backfield. Now with Derrick Henry, this is somebody who almost feels like an anomaly in the NFL right now. You add a piece like Julio Jones, the game continuing to evolve year by year becomes a more passing-first league. Do we expect to see more of that balanced running pass approach, RPO approach out of Tennessee, or are we going to still see more possession around Derrick Henry, hoping for defenses to stack the box, play man coverage, play cover 3, and in an efforts to get Julio and AJ and some of the other playmaking options open?
Yeah, great question. And here's the thing. If you were to ask the Tennessee Titans last year, the year before, what is your identity? It's run first, right? It's run the ball. I mean, Derrick Henry, when you have a guy like that, back-to-back rushing years in terms of champion, you're going to give the guy the ball. I mean, he's the one that's going to give you the most success. But when you add a piece like Julio Jones, and I know it's one piece, but you also have to look at everything else that this offense has been able to do in the past. I feel like Derrick has tread on the tires, and this is a year where you're going to maybe see a little bit of decline, or maybe you want to save a little bit for when you do go into the postseason. And Julio Jones adding that piece, it helps you with the variety, with what you can do in terms of mixing up things on offense. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare for opposing defenses, as Ryan had mentioned. And then we still don't know if they're going to make any moves in terms of adding maybe a veteran tight end. They have a little bit of money to work with after maybe signing their 3 remaining rookies. So we could even see an addition there. And then you can't forget about Josh Reynolds, guys, that I know he's not this guy that has big numbers coming into the season, but I think he's now a good number 3 guy where he can be utilized in the slot in some situations. Now that you look at it as a whole, that room is so much deeper. And so maybe you can take a little bit away in terms of Derrick Henry's carries. But I think when it's all said and done, that big boy is what's really given this team the identity in terms of success. Yeah,
it has. Josh Reynolds is great. I've watched him here in LA for the last few years, and he's going to be a tremendous addition. Sky Guasco, our fellow co-host, he's got a quick question for you too.
Hey, Kayla, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you taking some time. I'm so glad you mentioned Josh Reynolds. I've been a big fan of his since Texas A&M and the Rams as well. You mentioned the secondary and the young secondary and kind of piecemealing the last couple of years. And it's been a weak point, at least last year, for the Titans in an otherwise pretty strong front 7. I want to talk about Caleb Farley, first-round draft pick, number 22. He was actually my top-rated personally. He was my favorite cornerback that came out of this draft class, but he was I thought a steal at number 22 behind J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain, who went ahead of him because he fell in the draft because of a recent back surgery. So just curious if there's any updates with him, if he should be healthy for day one. And ultimately the Titans, to make a run in the AFC, they're going to have to get past Josh Allen and the Bills and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So what can Caleb Farley do as a rookie?
I think you're exactly right. I think he was one of, in my opinion, the best cornerbacks on the board. And he slipped because of those back surgeries in the most recent one. First of all, I love this kid's attitude. We got to talk to him the day after he was drafted when he was in Tennessee, and just loved the fight he has. His identity, it fits the Tennessee Titans, that kind of gritty, like chip on our shoulder type of team. He fits that room really well, and he fits the room especially well because he just loves football. I mean, he eats, breathes, and sleeps football. In terms of the injury and how he's coming along, he's been here, he's been rehabbing. We haven't seen him on the field, but he was here for rookie mini camp. And I know that every time we've asked about him, it seems like everything's going along really well. And according to him, when we spoke to him, he said he's going to be out there. He's going to try to be out there during training camp. So if they can get him out there that soon, that would be great. I do expect to see him ready to go week 1. But I think he's going to be a great addition. It's just a matter of how quickly he can get out there. But he seems like he's a fairly quick learner. And again, I just think his mentality fits this team really well. He's just excited to play football again.
Yeah, I bet he is too. Looking for big things from the Tennessee Titans. We're talking with Kayla Anderson, Emmy-winning sports reporter at WKRN there in Nashville. Before I let you go, be remiss if we didn't talk a little Cougar football here with you. A COVID year where it pretty much shut down the whole conference. Mike Leach takes his show on the road to Starkville. They hire a new coach, Nick Rolovich. Not a lot to know about quite yet. What do you expect from our alma mater? What do you think in terms of expectations need to be after losing Mike Leach, who wasn't going to win you a championship, but was going to get you a bowl game every year? What do we need to expect from our Cougs, you think?
Yeah, it's such I tell you, Ryan, it's hard because I was there, somewhat around the time that you were there, just a little bit after, but let's admit it, we saw winning teams. We were able to experience winning on the Palouse, and not that they haven't been able to experience winning under Mike Leach, but when you lose to the Washington Huskies, our rival, every year, to me, that's like unacceptable. And as much as I liked Leach, I was so sick of seeing Washington State lose to the Huskies, even the years when they had Minshew and they should have won. Right. It's just like, first and foremost, that's an expectation of mine. You've got to be able to beat our alma mater, because that's what's going to – what'd you say?
I loved his announcement. He really took into consideration how important that rivalry was. And Mike Leach just simply didn't. I toy with – Minshew and Jason Gesser a bunch about how you can't be considered a legend quarterback at Washington State if you've never beat the Huskies. So we'll leave it at that. I really appreciate you taking time. I was just down in Nashville a couple weeks ago for an event. Love that town. For some reason, I get asked to come there a lot, and they're in Peyton Manning territory. Right. It's a lot of fun. Keep doing what you're doing. You're killing it. I love watching your stuff. Have a great rest of the offseason, and we'll look forward to maybe having you back when the season kicks off.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Thanks, guys, for having me on. Appreciate it.
You bet. Kayla Anderson, everybody, Emmy-winning sports reporter there from WKRN in Nashville. She's got all the insight with the Julio Jones trade and what that means to the city. I think, from listening to her, the excitement around it, it sounds like it's just, I think a lot of people have expectations, but the city of Nashville and the state of Tennessee have a ton of expectations now with the signing of a 32-year-old wide receiver who hasn't been able to stay on the field that much the last few years.
Are these the highest expectations since Jake Locker?
Probably. I mean, I think there were a lot when he was drafted in terms of what that. I think when Marcus Mariota, I think that's where those expectations rose, but. With talking with Arthur Smith the last couple years, he really explained to me how he loved Marcus and what a great leader he was. But he was more of a West Coast offensive type of weapon, which is why I think he fits in so much better in John Gruden's system, because he goes on 12, 14, 16 play drives to get you points. You can't do that all game. What Arthur Smith wanted, with the weapons that they had down the football field, they wanted to be able to score from any spot on the field, and they just couldn't do that with Marcus Mariota. He wasn't as good down the field as Ryan Tannehill's been. And in the offense, where you have a running back like Derrick Henry, you got to have explosive plays down the field, and now they got another weapon to do that. So it should be really interesting to see what the AFC South looks like. It's going to be an incredible competition between the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. We have not paid any bills. We have to get into that. Of course, we talked about Sunfair a little bit, but you can go to sunfair.com and look like me at 45. Let's try it. Everybody try it, all right? Personalized, delivered, healthy meals. That photo of me at the bottom is from July 3rd of last year. The other two from a couple Sundays the last couple of weeks. I got to do another selfie here soon after weight training with Shannon the last couple of weeks. But Sunfair has been the reason, right? It's been all about the food. Personalized, delivered, healthy meals in the LA and Phoenix area. Go to the sign-up process on sunfair.com. Once you get there, enter your information page. You will need to click on and select Carl Farrow as your sales representative, as well as the Ryan D. Leaf Show as how you heard about it. Try it now. It's all about the food. Make that conscious choice to change your nutrition and get better. All right. Moving on. I wanted to follow up a little bit on the Aaron Rodgers conversation because the scrutiny that we've seen over the last 2 days of Jordan Love for minicamp practice has been overwhelming. It's going to be the most scrutinized practice sessions you'll see in a long time. I don't necessarily think it's fair to the man because it's just really about development. They weren't expecting him to be the guy. I'm glad he's getting opportunities, which is great because none of it counts. None of it counts. People can talk about it. Yesterday, a local beat writer talked about how he wasn't very accurate, how it didn't look good. Today's Twitter content has been how he's looked really impressive. So this can be a completely up and down, hyperbolic situation. All I know is this is the best thing for the Packers and for Jordan Love if he's going to be the guy. Even if he's not going to be the guy this year because Aaron Rodgers ultimately comes back, this couldn't be a better situation for them to see him develop. If you recall correctly, when Brett Favre stayed down in Mississippi, teetering on whether or not he was going to come back or not, Aaron Rodgers got all the reps. And a lot of people don't remember, but he wasn't that great coming out the chutes, right? There was a lot of boos at training camp. They didn't like the fact that this guy was coming to take over for a legend, but he got the reps he needed. He developed into the quarterback where they felt like when he was ready to take over the reins, he was ready to go. So I think this is a good thing for Jordan Love as long as he doesn't get overwhelmed and start reading, the headlines, whether people are saying he's good or bad, because none of it really matters. The only improvement part of it for him is what truly matters.
Ryan, we opened up the show. You asked us, pandemic, health, mental health, exercise. I think staying away from fans and the fan perspective is good for my mental health as well, because who are any of them? Who are we to sit there and judge Jordan Love for the situation that he finds himself in? He didn't go to Utah State with the idea that he was going to get drafted by the Packers, get absolutely scorned by the starting quarterback and superstar in the league, basically be an afterthought for a year, without a preseason, with so many variables surrounding. Like, this guy doesn't want the drama. This guy wants to go out and get a freaking NFL snap, and we're sitting here absolutely destroying him. Why? Because we need a narrative. If we need somebody to blame the Packers, because he's in the situation because of the Packers' decision making. And it's the same reason why I'm frustrated with the Aaron Rodgers thing. Yes, we could sit there and say Rodgers, blah, 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 blah. Why is he acting out at the Packers? Because the Packers did something in the past that screwed up. Should he get over it? Probably. Has he? No. Now we're dealing with the recourse. Jordan Love didn't ask for any of this. Jordan Love wasn't even alive. I'm popping out. Hold on. I apologize. I'm getting frustrated, so. Are we good? Jordan Love wasn't even alive when Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre were feuding. Like, this guy literally has no say in any of this, and we sit here, we're like, oh, he can't throw into a beautiful ball in a cover two in the pocket in the corner of the back left pylon of the end zone. Who cares? Let the guy just work, and let's see what happens when he takes out the NFL. All right, I'm blowing out again. I'm going to stop. That's a sign I need to stop.
It's not fair. You're exactly right. I said it today on Twitter. I said this is going to be the most scrutinized practice sessions we'll have seen in some time. It's not fair to the young man. His quarterback development will be seen in front of the entire world. Now, of course, I had the responses from a bunch of people like, hey, he was drafted in the first round up against a Hall of Fame quarterback. And, if he didn't want the spotlight, he should pick another job. Hey, this is my perspective. We've heard nothing from Jordan Love in terms of how he doesn't want this. He wants this, all right? He wants the opportunity to be the guy. Otherwise, he wouldn't be playing it. This is from the perspective of somebody who's played the position, been in a sport, and felt overly criticized. That's part of it. I get it. You don't have to be a part of that. People don't have to. That's a choice to be overcritical of somebody that is doing something that is absolutely meaningless at the time, right? What he does in practice with not all of his weapons, learning and through the process. And also, don't forget how Ryan Gutekunst has made this defense that much better. It's a reason why they've been in consecutive NFC championships, because not only of Aaron Rodgers, but because of the improvement on the defensive side of things, right? They intercepted Tom Brady 3 times in the NFC championship, all right? They've improved greatly. They're going to give Jordan Love a bunch of hell in practice, which is only going to make him better. So where this is all going, it's great for the development of Jordan Love, for the Packers in the long run. I still believe when it's all said and done that Aaron Rodgers will suit up for the Green Bay Packers on opening day and play through this year, because also if he decides to walk away, people forget about the aspect of how much money that Aaron Rodgers not only is giving up, but how much he has to give back. That's the thing that a lot of people haven't talked about, from bonuses to retroactive signing bonus money that he would have to pay back. It's a large amount. Not to say that he doesn't have it. That's just a lot of money that you have pocketed that you would have to return to an organization because you decide to end your career because you didn't like
He knows that, though. He knows all of that, and he's still making this choice, so I feel like it's a non-starter from our end.
Well, he's not. I truly believe in his heart of hearts and in his ear with Dave Dunn, my former agent, that they believe he's going to be playing for another team next year.
Dave wants him to play no matter what because Dave gets a money out of that. But Aaron's sitting there. Aaron rather stick to his convictions, whether they're feelings-driven, intuition-driven, whether we agree with them or not, than care about any of that stuff, right? Maybe him and Dave Dunn are at an impasse with each other because Dave wants the 7% that he gets.
He does not want to walk away. I have spent too much time with him and understand him. He does not. He wants to play football. He loves it. He loves it. He loves the camaraderie. He does not want to play football. So he just he believes wholeheartedly that by him taking the stance will allow him to play for another team next year. That's just where he's at right now. And that's why I talk about these two entities at an impasse, and it's going to be which team blinks first. And Green Bay, or which variable blinks first. Green Bay doesn't have to. They have quarterbacks. They can go play. They have a team in place. Now, I do believe that the over-under on them for wins this year without Aaron Rodgers sits around 6 or 7 wins, to be honest. I really do. I think that's putting a lot on a young quarterback to do what Aaron Rodgers has done the last few years in an MVP season. So I think it doesn't bode well for Green Bay, but I don't believe the only thing that helps them out is if they get a bunch in return, which isn't going to help them this year. So I think they hold out as long as they can until Aaron ultimately makes the decision on whether or not he comes back next year or not.
If Aaron's gone, who wins the NFC North?
It's up in the air. I mean, the Chicago Bears are now at the forefront. The Minnesota Vikings actually have a shot at doing some things if they stay healthy on defense and get some great play out of Kirk Cousins, which is asking a lot. But you're talking about the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings now having a real shot at the division title if Aaron Rodgers does not go in Green Bay. All right. For all of you out there that want to drink your sorrows away, but just can't because you can't deal with the consequences, try some Athletic Brew. All right. Brew without compromise. Athleticbrewing.com, non-alcoholic beers. You can drown your sorrows, but feel good about it in the morning. How about that one? All right. Try it. Athleticbrewing.com. Go to the website. You get 10% off your first 2 deliveries of 6-packs to your house. Really enjoy it. It's what I drink, and Sky as well. I forget. I think I had the shotgun one if Phil Mickelson didn't win the PGA. So luckily for me,
yeah, you're good.
I don't have to deal with that one at all. All right.
Well, hold on. Who do you have? Who do you have in the little tournament that they're doing? Because I feel like we should move that over. I
really feel like that this was an opportune moment for whoever puts these things together in my home state to go with Phil and me because they're San Diego
Of course,
ties.
You thought that would be an opportunity for them.
Yeah, it's an opportunity for them. Phil and me versus Bryson and Peyton.
What are you shooting right now? What are you shooting right now, Ryan?
Oh, I shot 78 on Monday with my little brother.
Phil would take a 78. Are you kidding me? Phil would definitely take a 78.
Oh yeah. I mean, Tom Brady's not going to shoot 78. Aaron could.
Water.
Aaron Tom could. Tom just had surgery. How's he doing?
Tom's doing great. Okay. Tom's doing great. You see him working out the other day without a knee brace. First time in 10 years without a knee brace. Yeah. So that surgery worked really, really well. It looks like so. But they're going to be playing in my home state. Perfect opportunity. I think that they messed this up.
Opportunity lost.
You should go cover it, Ryan. Go cover it. Go tell them.
I think I might be up in Montana at the end of the month of July. I told them I said I'd caddy. If anything, I'll just come up and caddy.
Just bring them on. Do RDL show on site. Bring them on.
Storm the green.
What we should do is we should have our.
We know
our
Brooks loves when people storm the green. Sorry.
We should have Bomb Banana, our spicy hot sauce, be delivered there to the people that organize this, and maybe it's kind of a little bribe here. Bomb Banana, all right. Go to seekthespice.com, get 10% off by using the promo code LEAF. LEAF, like on a tree, at checkout. Bomb Banana hot sauce. Get after it, people. All right. Before we leave, this was a great show. We had so much to talk about. Wanted to get into a couple things before we leave. The idea of whether or not Ryan Tannehill can become an NFL MVP. Kayla Anderson, right there in Nashville, feels like this is an opportune time for him. We wanted to get in a couple other things. The Jokic, am I saying that right? Jokic.
Yeah.
Jokic is the MVP. Our boy Jonathan Rifkin, right with this 91st first place votes. Curry finished as second. Paul, look where Paul ended up.
No, Embiid where was Embiid? Oh yeah, you're right. He didn't play enough games. Yeah, he didn't play enough games. Sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So.
Hold on. Time out. These aren't necessarily how they finished. These are the first place votes.
Right.
So yeah. Curry had 5, Paul had 2, and Embiid had 1.
That's how I view it. These are first place.
Giannis won Rose. How about Derrick Rose?
Somebody threw Justin Rhodes' name in there with 1 first place.
No, Derrick. It was probably like the Chicago or Knicks beat writer that has a vote, and they're like, we're gonna throw a vote.
Whatever. Good for him. I'm glad.
Good for him. And good for Jokic and Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. I mean, that's. Yep. What a wonderful thing! A small market in a big man in this league winning the MVP. This
Lowest
year.
pick ever, second round draft pick, only second round pick ever to win.
Wonderful.
First center since Shaq in 2000.
Yeah, he's barely a center. This guy does it all. That's why he won.
He does it all. That's exactly right. Jonathan had this pegged about a month and a half ago when we were discussing it. We'll get into this on Friday a little bit more. I want to get into the college football playoff expansion idea on Friday, as well as the NLI. Conversation in Congress, how this is going to affect and whether or not statewide mandates need to go into effect, or some markets, some organizations, some colleges could really take the brunt of it if certain states have passed this bill, certain states haven't. We'll get into that more on Friday. We want to thank again Kayla Anderson from WKRN there in Nashville to talk to us about the Julio Jones trade as well as the Tennessee Titans 2021 season. We look forward to talking about those things and more on Friday from the college side of things to the pro side of things. We'll have more NBA playoff talk as well with Jonathan Rifkin and Sky Guasco. We thank you for watching. Can't wait to see you guys on Friday.